Hello and welcome to this very special episode of the Full of Ourselves podcast with me, Anna Campbell, and my co-host, the beautiful Heidi Hinder Chadwick.
Hi.
And we had always planned, so there's lots going on. We'd always planned to have what we're going to call a coffee chat episode because the end of season 3 happened at the end of September. And we had a special episode in February around Heidi's amazing book and the book launch and all of that was going on. But it feels like a lot has happened for us both and for the podcast since then. And we are recording season 4 right now. So it is coming, it is happening. But equally, we felt like for those people who are invested in what's going on with us, we wanted to just talk about that. And then equally for those who just want to listen to the episodes, they can listen to those. So we had always planned to be recording today, but this week, the big news is that Full of Ourselves podcast is shortlisted in the business to business category of the Scottish Podcast Awards sponsored by Spotify. And so we wanted to just talk a little bit about that and what was happening about that. So Heidi, jump in. Say hello.
Yes. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, Anna. It's so good to be back. This is great. And yeah, this is exactly what Anna's just said on the tin. We want to just fill you in with almost the behind the scenes. You know, we come on here, we talk about what we believe to be, and from your beautiful comments and feedback, you're also really appreciative of the topics that we like to bring and stay on the edge of these conversations. And also, because this is so important to us as a Women in Business podcast, to share with you what is going on for us kind of behind the scenes and our own professional growth journeys as well that have changed just hugely since last year. So it's really, really good to be here. And yeah, this is so funny because obviously I remember you telling me, obviously you asked, shall we enter this? And I obviously said yes. And it's one of those things, isn't it, where it's gone in and then it's gone out again. And we've both had loads of things happening anyway, which we're going to touch upon. And it was literally just, so we're recording this in May, just as a bit of a kind of understanding of times if you're listening to this kind of in the future. And literally just a few days ago, we got the email that we've been shortlisted in the business to business category in the Scottish Podcast Awards. I cried. Anna cried. And first of all, I think in the email it said they had over 400 nominations. People had nominated themselves or other people had nominated them. So to be shortlisted, there's 10 of us in the shortlist. And between us, we do think it sounds like, you know, if we're going through that list, we'd definitely want to listen to our podcast. Obviously, you know. And it just feels it feels surreal. I have to be honest. And also, our little baby, Foop. I mean, it is 3 seasons old, so it's no longer just finding its steps. But our baby is being recognized for something that Anna and I started on the back of a curiosity, really, a sense of knowing that perhaps the conversations that we were enjoying with each other may be useful to others as well. So this labor of love, and it is a labor of love. To the point of, and this feels really important, this is why there's been quite a few months since season 3, because we both had to feel that it was the right time to start recording again because this matters to us. And I think that's really important. And then it just became very obvious, not that long ago, both of us were like, it's time, isn't it? Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then maybe just say a little bit about the kind of background of the Scottish Podcast Awards and why, why we're in there and that kind of thing. So I can't remember this year at some point there was I saw there was a meetup about the kind of the Scottish podcast industry and what was happening around it. And I went along to that, and it was interesting. And weirdly, the first person I talked to, because I was like, oh, I walked into that room and there was knew no one there, like no one at all. And a lot of times when I go to any networking in Edinburgh is a very small city, and generally, especially if I go to like women in business, I'll know someone there. Like it's just the way of things. But I walked into that room, I knew no one, and I was kind of hanging out by the tea bit, trying to think like, what am I going to do? The first person I spoke to was one of the organisers of the Scottish
Oh,
Podcast
I didn't know
Awards,
that.
and one of the people I'd kind of wanted to speak to, or at least to
Yeah.
gauge a little bit around. We are eligible for the Scottish Podcast Awards because I am in Scotland and our producer and editor is also in Scotland. So Heidi is actually the only person involved in the
I'm here
podcast
normally.
that's not in Scotland. And as long as there's one, that's one of the things I asked him about, is like, as long as there's one person who is involved in the podcast who is living in Scotland, then that's that. So we are, we may hear our English accents and go, why are they here? This, but that's why, because we are edited and produced in Scotland, and we span Scotland and England
We do.
in terms of the awards, and and it was, do you know what? And I put the deadline for applying in my calendar. And I really very clearly remember this. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night or something. And I was like, I saw it in my calendar. And I was like, oh no, I should have put it like a few days before. That was my mistake. I put it on the deadline. And so I was like frantically like, all right, okay, look, let's just get this application in. Originally you'd had to pay to apply, but it is now sponsored by Spotify. Thank you, Spotify. So they took that need out because of course the organization needs to have money in order to run all this kind of thing. Anyway, so they'd taken that off the table, and I was like, yeah, look, we need to apply, we need to apply. And I was going in on it. And then suddenly there was this whole thing about you had to share links and you had to tell them which part of the podcast to listen to. I was like,
Wow, Anna.
I've got no time. In some ways, I'm actually glad I didn't have much time, because what I did was, as I picked out different episodes that featured different types of topics, and I just randomly found clips.
It's amazing.
Just listen to any of it.
We have over 20 episodes that have been filmed already. So there's a lot there. And I mean, I'm always in awe of you. Anytime you see the little reel clips and things on Instagram, that's come from Anna. You're so good at being able to do this aspect of the technology. And it's interesting. I just want to say that's really interesting around, we are independent podcasts. It is just, okay, it's the two of us that are the faces. And then we have Gary, who is our engineer, our music sound producer. And we couldn't do this, without him. So thank you, Gary. But we don't have sponsorship yet. Just saying, we don't have that yet. We're doing this ourselves. And I think that's a pat on the back and commendable.
Definitely. And when we look at actually some of the other people that are on our shortlist with us, there are some big names that do have that production support, and from a business perspective, it's really brilliant to be in and amongst this crowd and to have been recognized on the shortlist.
Totally.
Within that. And I want to fill out the stat that I think it's 7.1% of, this was in 2024, so there may be changes since then, I hope so, but the 7.1% of podcasts in business and technology are hosted by women. And
just let that settle in a moment. It is tiny.
It's tiny. It's tiny. And I think in that respect, it is great, again, to be in and amongst these people. There are women hosts on the list as well as us, which
Good.
was really, I looked because I was like, I was really pleased to see that, it isn't just us. But equally, I think that part of, why we're in amongst this is because we are talking about women in business, and
Yeah.
in an amazing way and in a great way. And it's not something that is very largely represented yet. And I think it is right to say, we are doing this without being paid. We're putting this out
Yes, labor
there.
of love.
And we have continued. And I think that's another thing, is like most podcasts don't continue over 12 episodes. I think that's the stat average. And we are here, we are continuing, we have plans, we know where season 4 is going. So yeah, we're here. And I think that having that recognition also helps, gives us a boost to be like,
Absolutely.
okay, people, not just our listeners, because our listeners are amazing and they're giving us feedback and they're telling us what they love. And please continue to do that more. Like, we want more of that.
Yeah,
But to have that recognition from the wider industry
totally.
is a brilliant thing.
Absolutely. And part of this is, and this is kind of underlying for the other things that we're going to be sharing about what we've been up to since then. And we were chatting a little bit about this just before we hit record, is sometimes nothing happens. There's this feedback loop. We put something out into the world, we get feedback, and then we either continue or we adjust or we completely drop that, change things. We're always in relationship. That is just how it is. But the feedback loop is a really interesting thing when you're in business or when you're an artist. I mean, this is a whole episode in itself, but just to kind of touch upon this, because often that is not instant. And we're kind of just feeling our way, doing things, not really necessarily having anything solid to kind of bounce back at us for us to respond to. Both Anna and I are generators. Anna's manifesting generator. I'm a generator. Any of you that know human design know that generators are about responding to input. So continuing to do something without getting that strong feedback it takes a certain amount of belief in what you're doing and joy. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love it. Of course it helps hearing your response. We love that. We need that. We appreciate it. We value it in all of this. So this is just something for you, if you're listening to this going, oh, wow, okay, no, you've done 3 seasons. Didn't realize that. Just maybe you're a new person here. Hello, welcome. Yeah. And we had every intention. We'd already had in the diary, let's start recording season 4. The fact that now we've got this beautiful recognition, this nomination, it's amazing. That matters to us because it's kind of that's the feedback that's making us go, okay, yeah, we're doing good. We're getting that outside thumbs up. But we were doing it anyway. But it's amazing to have that as well, and what it might open up in opportunities for us. But talking about opportunities, I mean, where to even begin? We want to share some of our highlights.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say one more thing just on the podcast awards, because I don't want to leave that one behind. But so what happened was we were on a call actually for an hour. You were coaching me because we still, since 2021, we've been coaching each other and all backwards and forwards, and we still do that now every month. And we just finished a call, and then I opened my email and the email came, and it said we'd been shortlisted, we were on the list. And it was so interesting because I've recorded a reel, which you're welcome to go and have a little look at. But I was shocked. And I want to just be very clear that I wasn't shocked that we were on the list, because I think I wouldn't have put us in if I hadn't thought we had a chance of being on the list. The shock just came because they never gave a date as to when they were going to be shortlisting. Like a lot of the awards, they say, right, we are going to be announcing our shortlist on X date. They just said May, and they hadn't said anything more. So I just, it wasn't on our radar as that this was coming, and suddenly it was here. So the shock was like, I'm reading this email, and suddenly like this has come in, and I wasn't like emotionally prepared for it.
Yeah.
And then we were on the phone to each other. I was like, I don't even know what I said. I'm like, I was like, and we, it was so amazing to have that kind of moment of celebration together, on the phone, and just being like, and so yes, it's amazing, it's brilliant. We were already, as you said, recording, like we booked in. In fact, we wanted to film season 4 a little bit earlier, but there was issues with sound and things like that, with building works, and there were lots of technical things going on. So, but we were always going to be filming and today, and so that's why it's been amazing that it's this week that it's been announced, and we were always coming back. It wasn't like, oh, shall we bother doing it? Shall we not? We were doing it. It's just, it's been a little bit longer than we'd originally planned in between seasons, but yeah. But I think you're right. Like, this is what we want to talk about here, is like there's been a lot going on for us individually.
Yeah.
In amazing ways. And I also want to echo back what you just said as well, about sometimes you're doing the work and there's nothing is coming back from it. And I remember, I think particularly in 2024 for me, actually, I think everyone has a bit of a long night of the dark night of the soul,
or at least one
at some point, maybe more than one. But I just remember being like, nothing's happening. Like, this isn't working. I'm doing all this work. I'm putting this out there. I'm doing the thing, and what's coming back? And it's that. It's in those moments where we keep going.
Totally.
That's the key. And that's, again, I just wanted to say that to anybody who is feeling that they're in that space at the moment, to just
keep going.
In yourself what you're doing is the right thing. And sometimes, like Heidi mentioned, it takes the world a little bit of time to catch up on it.
Yeah. And there's no guarantee of dates. It could take a week, it could take a year, it could take 10 years. But if that's the thing that I think feels alive in you, carry on. With or without the outside recognition, you carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would like to ask you, first of all, you had your book launch.
I did.
And I came to Manchester.
You did.
And it was such an amazing time. And we really had, it was so brilliant. It was so, I'm just trying to remember. I think we must have recorded the book episode prior to that, actually, because I think it came out as the book came out rather than.
Yeah, probably. Seems like a million years ago. It was 3 months ago, which feels like nothing.
I know, it really does. But you had your book launch. Can you tell us a little bit about, well, we done an episode on your book, but maybe just do a little summary of what it was and where your book launch was and what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So my beautiful book, I love everything. Those of you watching on YouTube, this is all very matching.
Hang on. We're just matching our books, basically.
Oh my God. Can you screenshot that? That is such a good image, isn't it? That's brilliant. That's so funny. That was definitely not a planned thing. So, Story of the Dear Woman came out. It was officially published 13th of March. So, like I say, 3 months. And the official book launch, the sold out official book launch, was on the 20th of February. So I am in this week now where I am really sitting with, remembering, celebrating that my book baby is 3 months old, and being quite blown away by everything that's gone on in that time. The book launch was just wonderful. Absolutely loved it. I love being up on stages and speaking, and we both do. We both have that absolute joy for that. It felt so right to be sat on stage, Anna, with a room full of people being asked questions about my characters and story and writing, I remember sat there going, this is it. This is it. This is exactly where I want to be, which is great. So since then, there have been little book events in intimate spaces, like a dear friend of mine's beautiful shop. Shout out to Mockingbirds in Withington in Manchester. We had a lovely evening there talking about women's stories and why women's stories are important. That was beautiful. I'm trying to think of things. I headlined at what I think is the most prestigious spoken word night in Manchester. It's been the longest running one. I'm always blown away by the caliber of people they have. And I was one of the headliners. That was I think that was beginning of April, if I remember. I loved it again. It's wonderful. And just one other, a couple of other things. Yeah, teaching writing workshop for my old women's writers group that I started out at. Felt a wonderful thing to do. And I also, amongst all of this, loads of other things, highlighting my first book festival. So again, shout out to Fiction Fest and Ellen, Jess, and oh no, please, please, please. Okay, that's my menopause brain. The other person's name has completely escaped me, and I really apologize. They organized the most astonishing event, and I absolutely loved it. I was selling books, I was doing tarot readings because if you don't know, I also read tarot. When I coach Anna, we always pull some tarot cards as well. Sometimes that helps to really affirm what it is that we've been talking about. I was also on a stage against on a panel there talking about horror and identity, which again I absolutely adored. And there's so many more events and festivals and things coming up. So it's been very, very rich in that respect. We sold lots of books, getting some beautiful reviews that honestly make me cry when they come in. And sometimes I can't believe it, Anna. Like sometimes I just pick up my book and I just start crying. I'm like, whoa. And it's gorgeous. Shout out to Lemon Jelly Press, who are my publishers, and Lottie for helping to come up with this. It was co-creation for the cover and bringing the book to life. I will say that's very interesting, though. And people talk about this, but you don't really realize this until it happens. So I've always had this dream of being a published author, and now I am. But what I started to realize was it's not really about getting the dream. It's not been about really that I've got a book out, come and buy my book, though that's part of it. What I started to realize was actually what opens up, what starts to happen from having a book out in the world. The experiences, the connections, the opportunities, the invitations, the conversations I'm having with other authors, spoken word poets. That's been really surprising. I think people talk about that, don't they? Of like, I think it was Jim Carrey that said that once, actually. He said he wished everybody could have all the money in the world or the fame that they want. That they realize that's not the point. And there's something that I've been learning about that. It's really interesting. So I'm very much been enjoying all that has been opening up around what the book has represented by being published out in the world. And of course, I'm celebrating this beautiful thing as well. I'm really proud of it.
It is a brilliant book. You
Thank
should
you.
definitely read it if you have not read it.
Yes.
It's fantastic. And the book launch was so much fun, and it was
Sure.
at Blackwell's bookshop
That's right. Yes, Charlotte Blackwell's.
in Manchester, and there was a massive crowd there. And it was really interesting. The guy who runs them there, he'd obviously taken the time to properly go through the book and come up with really interesting questions and themes. You had a lot of lovely support there. We had such a great party afterwards, and
Dancing
it
till
was just
dawn.
amazing. We just had a great time. We
It was
we
the
really did.
Yeah,
It's a massive
celebration.
celebration.
Yeah, celebration is so important, isn't it? So that's been a huge part of, and still continues to be a huge part of where my energy and attention, um, and focus and curiosity has been going this year. But I want to stay with celebration because, so both of us now, as we head into season 4, we are both published authors, which is phenomenal because I remember years ago us both talking about we both wanted to get books
Yeah.
published, and here we are now. And I wonder what our next dreams are, and we'll see what those come to fruition. But so your book came out last August, so I was with
September, yes. My book, Good Girl, I'm just holding it up now for those
yeah.
who are just listening to the audio. So my book, Good Girl Rebellion, was out in September,
Was it
so a little bit earlier than yours. So it's, and that just again, in case people are new to us, that was the first time we ever met, was at my book launch, like in face to face.
After years we've been online?
We've been working together and on Zoom and things since 2021, and we started the podcast in 2024, but we didn't meet face to face until September 2025, and we've only met face to face twice
At celebration.
at book launches.
And then there's the next time that we might be meeting, might be for the Scottish Podcast
I
Awards.
hope it will be for the Scottish Podcast Awards. We need to try and work that out.
But definitely what's in the diary for us to meet again is what Anna's going to share in a second. But I was just joking, but also loving the fact that we come together only when we can get our glad rags on and celebrate the hell out of each other. It's just great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, my exciting news is that the book Good Girl Rebellion, which is a business book, so it is particularly for us good girls who are wanting to start our business and maybe finding that we need to manage ourselves differently, because when we're managed by someone else, it's a very different thing to working and managing and growing our own business.
Yeah.
And it is shortlisted. It's another shortlist. Woohoo! In the prestigious Business Book Awards, in the the personal self-development, business self-development category. And I am it's an interesting thing because having the book out, it was obviously a big milestone, and becoming an international bestseller was like, oh, amazing, amazing. But this has been something I've been working towards. My publisher actually recommended that I put the book in for this particular awards,
Mm.
and they had lots of different categories, and I kind of fit in a few different ones. And what they said was, you apply for a category, but they might move you to a different category. But they did put me in the category I thought I applied for. And there was an event in London where they were announcing their shortlist, and I was like umming and ahhing about going. I was like, oh, because it's quite a long way from Edinburgh to London. Let me just point that out, just in case anyone doesn't know the geography. But I didn't go in the end. But they shared it live on YouTube. They did the shortlist, and I was just sat there like, oh. And I was waiting for my category, the one I thought, because again, because they could have moved me in the different category, I actually didn't know, if I was shortlisted, but also where I might come up. So I was like on tenterhooks the whole time. And then in that category, I was announced as the third book in there. And it was a very emotional thing because it's a judged competition. There was a record number of people putting their books in. I know in my publisher, 22 books from my publisher were put in, and only 8 were shortlisted of the 22. So in that respect, it's amazing, and I'm just still on cloud 9 about it. And really, it is that recognition, I think, outside of me going, oh, I think this is a great book, and people reviewing it, and I've gotten some amazing 5-star reviews, thank you very much, and having that out there, but also having that, I guess it's that step up as well. It's like the industry as well is seeing that this conversation around women and women starting businesses and navigating that is an important thing to have as part of the conversation. So yes, very proud.
So proud. I'm so proud of you, Anna. It is an astonishing achievement. And I'm looking forward to, we are going, Anna very, very beautifully and generously invited me to be her plus one for the award ceremony down in London in September. And I was like, "Oh, absolutely, thank you, thank you." So I've said to her, I'm seeing sequins, I'm seeing us dressed up to the nines, how winning. And it's just such an honor to celebrate you, especially from being there from concept, the idea of, the dream of, to being shortlisted in this, as you say, prestigious Business Book Awards is absolutely phenomenal. So we're so super proud of you, and it is testament to the work that you do as well, and how needed it is. And again, going back to what you said before, it's a women's business book, and this is so needed, particularly touching upon the good girl archetype and how that impacts everything, and so many things, so many conversations that Anna and I have. I still can see little patterns of that good girl that runs through various things, and probably most of us have that. So to actually being able to be aware of that and how that can impact progress and your ambition and also your desires to go put yourself out there and go, I'm going to go into this and myself into this award because this is good enough. The kind of things that maybe the good girl wouldn't do are just again testament to you really walking the path that you speak about, which is
Mm,
really, really.
thank you. And also, just on the topic of the book, during this time, I have recorded my audiobook as well. And so I went into a studio in Edinburgh and I absolutely loved them. So shout out to Offbeat Studios, they were brilliant. And I had 2 days of just sitting in a booth with a microphone
Yeah.
with my producer in my earphones, and reading the book. And it was interesting because it was quite daunting to start with, actually, because you write the book and you give it in and you're like, oh, I've written the book, and then they send it back and it's like, oh, we've got to edit it, and you're like, oh, it's that process of doing that. And then you're talking about the book and all of that stuff. But I actually read it again, like properly read the whole thing through, because I had to, of course, for the audiobook. And it was such a brilliant experience.
Mm.
It's not out yet, but I'm hoping it will be out very soon, and I'll be able to share that with
Yeah.
you. But it's nearly ready to go, so it will likely not be very long away. And I do think it is nice to hear the author reading their own book. There were other options. So someone was talking about you can get AI to read it,
Ugh.
and all of this kind of, yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
So it is me. It is me sitting in a studio for 2 days reading the book. It was good fun, and it's interesting how they do it. I had an amazing producer called
Mm.
Olivia in my ears for 2 days, and if I made a mistake, which of course you fluff up and you say something wrong, or you scan the line and it doesn't quite work, and you start again. So then she'd play me back the last thing that went well, so that I could kind of say it again so that it fits in all of that. And yeah, that was a great experience, actually. I really think you should do yours.
I'm We're looking into that at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of people. I've always had a lot of people say to me, "I love your voice. I could listen to you talk about this, that, and the other, or hear your stories." And I've had quite a few people say, "Will you do an audiobook? I'd love to hear your voice speaking it." So I'm, yeah, that's going to happen
I
at
think so
some
many
point.
people do like to hear, like, obviously
I
you're
love
listening to
hearing
us now
authors'
on a
voices.
podcast. People do like to hear the author's voice.
Absolutely. I listen to quite a lot of audiobooks these days on Spotify. That's something
Yeah,
that
me
started
too.
to happen a lot last year. Um, and it makes the biggest difference. I absolutely love it. I think one of the very first times, maybe when I was getting into, maybe it was a whole new thing. It probably was, well, it wouldn't have been Spotify. They didn't have audiobooks then, so it's probably Audible, maybe. Was about 10, 11 years ago. I remember this specifically because I was listening to this when had a little art studio. I could see myself there doing a painting. And I listened to Amanda Palmer's The Art of Asking. I think we've touched upon that book before. And it was her speaking it. It was one of the first audiobooks, as I say, I listened to. And then every now and then she'd sing a song as well. So I think if you ordered, I don't know if you got the book at the time, you also got a CD with it, or whether that was that extra thing. That was gorgeous. That was such a wondrous experience. But I too love hearing the author's voice because I think sometimes when we're reading stuff and we're familiar, but I'm reading at the moment, having a pause from my horror reading and reading a book called Abroad in Japan by a guy called Chris Broad, which, shout out to him. He doesn't necessarily need it. He's doing very well. He's got a YouTube channel. So I hadn't realized, I hadn't put the two together, that the YouTube channel that I love to watch, all about things Japanese and living abroad, is this guy's book. But then when I realized that, I'm now reading it in his voice because obviously, I'm used to that. And I think, again, it makes it really human. I don't like those AI voices.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels really, really weird. Um, so one of the things that I've realizing recently, like very recently, actually, probably so recently that I don't think I've even shared this yet with Anna, is a little bit more of a clarity around who I'm working with or who my kind of audience in a lot of ways is. There's two aspects to this actually. A big part of, I think, my audience these days is midlife women. I'm actually currently writing another book and it touches upon the story of the Dear Woman does touch upon aging and immortality and that aspect. This one does as well in regards to the beauty industry. I'm not going to say any more about that. And I'm actually writing an article about beauty at the moment. And then I was having a conversation with the women in my, it might change the title, the name of this, but my membership, the 8% Club. And just suddenly realized that this is actually now going to be a space for midlife women. I don't like the term midlife, so I think I might have to come up with something else. It just sounds so, like, I don't know, bland and doesn't work for me. Or there'll be another word that will come up. I have a real strong advocate for the age that I am right now. I'm really noticing it more and more and having conversations. Yes, I'm going through menopause symptoms and dealing with that. But I'm also stepping into a new business or have done, which I'll touch upon shortly. And yeah, there's a fire in me right now to be an advocate for women of this age, to create, to have a voice, all the stuff that I've always kind of talked about, to pursue your business in a different way. But we're coming with something different when we hit this age in lots of different ways. So I'm very excited about that. And you're kind of maybe hearing this first here, but my creative membership, the 8% Club, I am going to actually, that's going to be for midlife women. Similar things, lots of coaching, lots of following your dreams ideas, conversations around that, coming together, lots of all that kind of stuff. But it's going to really have that as the inclusivity or the invitation. So I'm very excited about where that's going. And also for my own self, I think there's something about getting the clarity. This is the age I'm at now. Like I wrote my first, well, my book was published. My first book was published earlier this year. I'm at 53 years of age. That's quite old, in lots of respects. And I'm just getting going. And we've always been really passionate, Anna and I, about it's never too late or don't give up or what's in the way of things, what messages you've been carrying. And like I've just said, I've got this real sudden fire in me that there's something very political about going, hello, world, here I am. And all the things that maybe used to bother or care about are just kind of falling away. So I think 50 is the new 30 or something. Maybe with a bit of joint ache.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I turned 50 this year.
Oh, of course you do, don't you? I forgot. Brilliant. Excellent.
So I'm joining the club.
Excellent. Yeah. I think this is vital. Like we both have such young energy. And we both got such a lot of energy and sparks and ideas and, things that we're just getting going with.
And I do think it's interesting. I've seen some stats around at the age that women are starting businesses. And I can't remember the percentages, but I know that at this kind of late 40s into 50s time is a time when women particularly, are actually starting
Mm,
businesses. And I think that's interesting because I feel like a lot of us have a lot of experience. We've got
yeah.
life experience, we've got work experience, we've got so much that we can bring. And with this stage where we're like, okay, now I want to do this for myself. I
Yeah.
want to, I don't want to have to ask someone if I can take my lunch break. I want to be able to do the work that I now am able to do and do it my own way.
Yeah.
So, I think that that is something that's really, really important. But just this general idea of the membership going to more midlife,
Yeah.
again, I agree with you on that term. It's like, "Ugh," but yeah.
Yeah, we need anyone listening that has a different term, please let us know. That I think there's so many of these words and phrases that are just very unkind to women. What a surprise, hey? Yeah. So what else has you've been up to? Anything else at all apart from being like nominated left, right, and centre, recording an audio book?
I think one of the key things I was
For anything
just
else?
looking back on my I was looking back on my calendar and looking at the kind of things that have been going on. And one of the key ones that I wanted to share about is I went down to London for the Unlikable Woman Summit. And I adore Amy Keane. She's just got such a brilliant vibe. And the people that she brought together for that summit, it was so brilliant. And I wasn't the speaker specifically at this event, but I did get up on stage. They had a kind of like a time where people could come up on stage and talk.
Hmm.
And I did. I got up on
Of
stage
course you did.
with the sequin cape on,
Of course.
obviously. Well, that was what it was about. And I talked, I did like a very brief, like a couple of minute talk about the self-employment pay gap and why we don't charge enough, and why this is such a big issue, because that is something that
Yeah.
I'm talking a lot about at the moment. And it was great.
Yeah.
And I also took some of my books along, and I was giving out some of my books, and it was a really, really brilliant vibe. And it's amazing, these kinds of events that are out there are brilliant.
Mm.
Heidi and I are available to speak at events and run panels and do
Oh,
all of
gosh.
that. We are absolutely,
Primed, right.
award nominees. That's
Yeah.
it's just put it out there.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
we absolutely would. That's where we're going in the next year.
We're
That's
already
what we're
doing it though,
doing.
aren't we?
We want to be working and doing that individually, and and we have been.
Yeah.
You've been going and doing a lot of the things like Fiction Fest and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've also been talking at events and things, but we want to do that more. So we're putting that out there. For
Actually, I think that's one of the things going forwards for FOOP is, the bit that excites us. Yes, it'd be great to have some financial backing, whether sponsorship, however that arises. Obviously, it will feel right for both of us. But more exciting than that is the idea of taking FOOP on the road. I mean, can you imagine Anna and I, FOOP on the road? I can just see it. I can see the images. I can see us out there. It's something that is coming, absolutely. Probably very soon. And obviously, you'll be the first to hear about it when that is the case. So I want to share also where I'm going business wise, actually. So some of you might know, I think I've probably touched upon this at some point or other in our episodes. So about last summer, for some reason, I started to put down a lot of the creative coaching work that I've been doing for a long time. Bit not sure why. I think sometimes we have to really trust where we're being called to put things down, to really listen to that, to trust in the cycles of things. Because as a businesswoman, we can't stay rigid and fixed. This is something that's very important. We have to allow things to evolve, to change. That's just part of the nature. Our businesses are alive, you know. So that was starting to happen at the same time the last couple of years, as you know, and I've spoken about this quite a few times. I've been doing a lot of training with nervous system intelligence, particularly for creatives, for performers, for the arts. It's been life changing for me. I love it. It's geekiness personified. And yeah, um, really loved it. And so this year, what I've stepped into now, is just beginning, is a bit of a drum roll, as I've stepped into working more with the space of leadership. So going into businesses, corporates, organizations, particularly more and more these days, these spaces are talking about how do we become more trauma informed, or how do we look after and bring in more of a presence of well-being, or look after mental health of the staff and so on. And I think sometimes that can be a bit rote. It can be a bit of a tick box of, we've given out a leaflet, we've done a little whatever. And nervous system intelligence for leadership is so much more than just about learning things that impact yourself as leaders or teams or your company. It's a bigger sense, which is, and it's so much about what Anna and I touch upon all the time, really. Why we call this Full of Ourselves podcast is, who is leading? When you arrive anywhere, what part of you is leading? How do we live from a place of self leadership, self empowerment, self responsibility, self accountability? What does that actually mean? And this fascinates me. So this is the work that I've started to step more into, and it's really exciting. So that's alongside all the other kind of creative work as well. And I'm sure I'll be bringing a lot of that expertise and information into our conversations as well going forwards, because it's very, very helpful.
Mm, yes, I love that. And I have taught on a visibility retreat in Brighton twice now, since uh, we were recording.
Well,
And it was a 3-day retreat with other kind of people kind of teaching on that. I was particularly teaching about email marketing, because that's one of the things I like. I like to be expert in many millions of things, so that's one of the things I'm
absolutely.
expert in. So and that was really an amazing thing, and being able to kind of come along and teach um, in that in those kinds of, I think sometimes we need to take ourselves away and
Mm,
away, because I think we can get stuck in the business and just the doing.
yeah.
But actually, sometimes we need to take ourselves away from that doing
Yeah.
to a completely new environment, and re-evaluate, re-look, just go from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So that has also been really good, and again, love to do more of that as well. um I think, was there anything else you wanted to bring up? Because we've had it's a lot, but these are our
Yeah,
headlines.
there's headlines. And I think, I don't know about you, but I feel really, and I think maybe I can speak for both of us, but just, shut me down if if they're not. There's something that I really feel about where Anna and I are individually, but also now as we, on the precipice of beginning to record season 4. There's definitely more of a quality of like an embodied substance, of a sense of us both sitting in the seat of our own authority more and more. And it's a joy. It's always been a privilege. I mean, it's just extraordinary that we get to go on this journey together. We say this to each other all the time. And there's lots of things often that cross over, or we coach each other, and it's like, thanks, I needed that as well. Celebrating each other, helping each other when things are a bit tricky with, mindset stuff, or those little blocks and blind spots and things. But I think there's something about us both sat deeper in our own, like I say, that sense of leadership. And I really want to celebrate that for ourselves individually, for myself, for you, and for the future of food.
Thank you, and I absolutely agree. I think we are both at a different level in all ways, and I think sometimes things can happen, and you don't you just, your nervous system is like, oh, I can't cope with it. But I think we are at that level, and it's like we're fully in, and
All of
it's there, and
ourselves.
we're we're full of our thank you. We're full of ourselves, definitely. And we have got so much more to share. We have
Yeah.
some brilliant topics
Yeah.
coming up in season 4. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. And also check us out on Instagram as well. We'll share all of the links you need in the show notes. But yes, on to the next.
Yeah.
On to the next chapter.
Absolutely. And if you haven't done so already, we have 3 seasons. That's 18 episodes plus 2 special episodes out there for you to go and peruse and listen to. Please share. That is always very helpful for us. Do comment. Let us know what you enjoyed. Let us know where you are. Have things changed for you in the last few years as you've been following along with FOOP as well? And we will see you over in season 4.